Hello and welcome to Time Buster Training. This is a series to inform you and inspire you on your fitness journey. I'm going to be speaking to industry experts, people I've had the privilege to work with in my time in the fitness industry, and Time Buster trainers who are currently in our community, in our tribe, absolutely smashing their fitness goals. So today we're going to speak to Nick. Hi Nick, how are you doing?
Hiya.
So Nick fits into two of those categories. She's in our private Time Buster tribe, and I've had the privilege of being part of her fitness journey. So Nick, for people who don't know you, just introduce yourself. Where are you from? What do you do? All those sort of things.
I met you because I work at TEAM, which is where you used to work. So TEAM is a residential fitness and weight loss camp where I look after our long-term customers who are here really to deal with the bigger issues of food. So people who've got binge eating issues, who are secret eaters, who've got more kind of emotional issues with food. So I support them as well as doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff and sometimes being a chef and sometimes being everything. So yeah, my latest title is I'm the Swiss Army knife of bootcamp. Because I basically can turn my hand to most things. I'm officially an operations manager, which I enjoy, and I get to meet lots of different people and help them, which is lovely.
So how did you end up at TEAM? So tell where are you from? Whereabouts are you from?
So I normally live in Buckinghamshire, but before I came to TEAM, so I came to TEAM initially as a camper. And before that, I was living in Scotland. So I lived in Stirling, but worked in Glasgow. And I had left my job through a well-engineered redundancy situation at a point where, to be honest, I should have probably left that job beforehand. But, you know, a lot of different issues, I kind of felt I should stay and sort stuff. And then it just got to the point where it was unmanageable and, quite frankly, quite toxic for me being there. So I left there with, very luckily, a nice redundancy package, which I decided I would invest in myself. Now, I'd always been overweight. I've had, well, not always actually, I'd generally been overweight. Like I'd got to a point where for me I was fitter and healthier, but would never be, down near my ideal weight. So I decided that when I took my redundancy, I'd already decided I was going to take some time off work and just do something else or go traveling or do something. And I don't really remember exactly when or how, but I think it was after I'd actually sold my flat and moved back to England. I just suddenly had this, I need to find somewhere where I can just go for however many weeks and lose weight and be fitter and be healthy and just focus on myself. And at that point, I didn't even know if somewhere like that existed. It was just like, this is where I want to go. I don't even know if it's a thing. So after some very quick Googling, I found TEAM and I was like, this is where I'm going. Now, I then met lots of lovely people here, and obviously very good friends with some of them now. And one of them, she agonized over where she was going, what was the right place, and should she go abroad. Now, I must admit, I just looked at the website and went, that's where I'm going. That's what's happening. So I started as a camper in January 2018 and started up for what they call their Conquer Food program, which was what I look after now, which is a 12-week program. And I was just like, I'm signing up, I'm all in. And they were like, do you want to take any breaks while you're here? Do you want to go home for a week? And I was like, no, I'm all in, 12 weeks, sign me up.
Because I know you, that does not surprise me whatsoever.
Massively overcommitting from the start. So yeah, I went, and actually in my first week, at the very end of my first week, I injured myself, and I did have to go home for a week because I just couldn't do anything. I could barely walk. But did exactly what they advised me to do, which was just go home and rest for a week. And then I came back and did the rest of my weeks. Boom, boom, boom. It was brilliant. Loved it. If you can train in the snow and then train in a very small cabin with only the people who've made it through the snow, if you can train in the burning heat, you're going to be fine. And then I'm pretty sure that I then met you because I left my 12 weeks and I had already decided, because I loved it so much, that I was going to come back for another 6 weeks. And I think in the 2 weeks I took off in between them is when you started at camp, I think, if I'm right. Is that sound
right? Yeah, because I think I started when a couple of the people that were just finishing in your era were finishing, and I think you'd already left, but obviously you came back.
Yes, I did, like that. I came back.
With the jump hands.
Yeah, I was there. So, I came back and did another 6 weeks when you were there. And I think within that, so there'd been people who kind of wanted to do, so part of what we do here is a lot, not just the fitness and food, but a lot of it's about your mindset and making sure your head's in the right place, and really kind of get into the grips of why you've got issues with food, what emotionally is going on with you, how are you dealing with that, more often than not, how are you not dealing with that, and finding better coping mechanisms, looking at how you're going to deal with those things in the future. And because I liked all that stuff so much, I started doing sessions for people who were in my Conquer Food group, which is, I think at that time there was maybe about half a dozen, possibly to a dozen of us at one point. I started doing, well, I started saying, so not like I was a teacher, I said to them basically, if we want to do more of this stuff, why don't we just do more ourselves in the evenings? So I'd started doing that in my 12 weeks and then carried that on in the 6 weeks. And unknown to me, so I just thought this was kind of fun and it would be educational for us and help us all with our personal growth and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But unknown to me, Paula was actually watching all of this, who's one of the founders of the TEAM Bootcamp. And she, at the end of my weeks, basically said, you know, you kind of seem to know what you're doing here. Do you want to come back and, you know, do a job at the end of the summer? So I went away for, I think I must have had plans, because I went away for a few weeks and then came back as a night manager position, which involved organising events in the evenings, which a lot of people who've been to TEAM who are watching this will remember, because I took them a little bit too far. They got a little bit out of hand, how competitive they got, by the nature of who designed them. Yeah, and then I think it was a week or 2 weeks into that again, she kind of pulled me aside and basically said that she'd offered me that position to really see how I would mix in with the rest of the staff, and then offered me a full-time job, which was fantastic, because it was secretly, I think, something that I'd really been looking for. Like my previous job, I was an advisor in a university, which I really liked. So I worked in the Students' Union, which gives you, you know, you're doing, as well as helping individuals, you're running campaigns, you're running events. There's lots of different elements to it. But at the core of it, it's trying to help people get the best out of the situation that they're in, improve their lives, you know. While most appointments, you know, we used to do appointments that were an hour, and I would say you'd probably spend 40 minutes talking to people about how they were just feeling, how they were doing, how they were coping, before you'd then spend 20 minutes with the advice part if this is what they needed to actually do. Which is a little bit like, you know, what we do here, which is a lot of spending time with people, getting to know them and find out what they need, you know, what is it that's missing. I think whilst I was here as a camper, I kind of realized that there was lots of things that I had been using food to fill different bits of my life, that actually, once I had a chance and opportunity to step back, I was like, well, actually, there's loads more things I would rather do in my life than go and buy food and eat food in my car or in my house on my own. So I've got quite into a lot of spirituality stuff, which initially was through my time as a camper, but then has now massively branched off into lots of other stuff that I do in my own time, and invest in, you know, going on different courses and going to different spiritual retreats and things like that. And then, so yeah, I mean, it was brilliant. So I got to, it would have been in September, I think, that year. And I mean, I was the fittest I've ever been, the slimmest I've ever been. And at the point Paula offered me the job, I had literally just booked to go to New Zealand for 3 months to see my sister. So I went off to New Zealand. I had a great time, and I put on some weight while I was away. But you know, for the first time in my life, it didn't bother me, because I could still do all the things that we were doing. Like, yes, there was, I think, I do remember going on one hike where I went to put on like the jacket I'd arrived in, and I was like, oh, it's getting a wee bit tight. But I was like, it doesn't matter, because we're climbing a mountain. And the me at the start of that year, I mean, yes, I could have climbed a mountain, because I was always one of those people that, regardless of sort of what the task was, despite my weight, I'd have somehow managed to do it, even though it taken me ages and I'd probably had DOMs for weeks afterwards. But, you know, and there was part of me just, I think, because of all the stuff I'd done in my self-development, I didn't really care that I'd put on a bit of weight, because it didn't bother me. I didn't mind if I'd put on weight, because I was still happy with who I was and confident with who I was, and it didn't matter. So yeah, I went away and had a lovely time, and then I came back and started working with you. Well, no, working with you, back to see you. Yeah, and was kind of just cracking on with bits here and there, and I must admit, it's been interesting, because then last year, having had, so 2018, it was like full on fitness, everything's great, nothing can stop me. And then 2019, I got an injury which stopped me running, which had become like my thing. So a lot of people who know me from camp were like, you're the one who can run, you're the really good runner. And all of a sudden I could barely walk. Like, you'll remember, because I think you were there was one of the days I actually collapsed in a session because my legs just were like, no, this isn't happening anymore. So that took weeks and weeks.
I remember we were really sympathetic at the time. I think
we were really sympathetic. Yeah, really sympathetic. Really sympathetic. I think actually until one day, I think I do remember I went to stand up in the Styrofoam one day and like horribly winced and nearly fell over. And the look on your face was, oh no, something actually is wrong. Like, she genuinely is in a lot of pain. So yeah, so that was really weird. So I went from being able to do anything fitness wise that I could, you know, kind of conceive of me doing to, and I couldn't walk. Like, there was days, I think on one of my weeks off, I went to go shopping. And I just remember like walking around the supermarket and I was like really having to lean on the trolley just to walk. And I was just devastated. Like, it was just one of these things where, you know, yes, there's some other exercises I could, you know, I could do. There were some things I could do, but I mean, I couldn't do a lot of stuff. Like, even walking out to where we train, which is like, I don't know, 300 yards away, like that was sore and I couldn't really do much training. So I went from being somebody that had totally transformed into this super fit, healthy person with this almost massively new identity as that person, to somebody who couldn't do anything. And actually, I found that looking back at it, I've kind of done a bit of work on it recently. And I think looking back at it, that was the hardest thing, was that I had created this totally new life and almost felt like I was just watching it crumble away before my eyes. Like, there was just, people would be like, oh, we're going to go and do this. And I'd have to be like, well, I can't do that. And, you know, as much as I kept trying to be positive and trying to keep my mindset, I think it did have more of an effect on me than I thought it did, because I then got to a point I could do some training again. And actually, Taz, who you've interviewed in a previous podcast, I remember messaging him one morning saying, I've just accepted that I can't run. I was like, I can walk, and walk's the best way I can do at the moment. And then I was like, do you know what? I'm going to try jogging across this field. And we must have just been kind of up early at the same time, because he messaged back going, well, you know, see how it goes. But if all we can do is walk, then that's fine, just walk. So I kind of jogged across this field and I was like, oh, actually, that was okay. That was actually all right. And over the course of that week, it was almost like as soon as I'd accepted that I was injured, it was like my body went, cool, you've accepted it. We're going to let you do stuff now. And I could then train again. It was brilliant. And I remember messaging you and a few other people over the summer being like, I've just been for my first 5K. It was really good. Like, I went out on my own. It was amazing. And then 3 days later, I was in hospital with an illness I didn't know I had. I fully on collapsed at home, and that took me out for then another month. And I just felt like last year there was almost like this series of things that kept happening. And not that, you know, I'm saying they kept happening because I was manifesting them to happen, but it just almost felt like, I say, that this new life that I'd created, every time I'd get to a point where I was like, right, I'm back on it, I can train properly, I can do all this, it would just be like, no, not so much, that's not happening.
Well, do you know, you just reminded me about something, because there's quite a few people that I've had the privilege of training in lots of different parts of my fitness career. And that's quite a common thread of people who remind themselves about where they've come from. And yours was quite recent, but a lot of people remind themselves of what they used to do when they were younger.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
What they did. And then they have this trigger of, I need to do something about it. And then they don't get it because they're obviously imagining it's really dead easy to get back to. But it's the journey, isn't it? You've got to take. Yeah. It takes time.
And I must admit, I think I felt like, I mean, when I did it the first time, I was just kind of like, well, I'm fat and overweight and unfit, so anything I can do is good. Whereas I think trying to get back to that has felt harder because I know that that's now a thing. Whereas if I could almost deleted that file and gone, right, you're just starting from afresh. I mean, obviously nowhere near the weight that I was and nowhere near as unfit as I was. But it's been really hard, and more from a sort of, I think, a mental point of view, of trying to regain that, but whilst also now having a full-time job and you know, balancing other things I want to have in my life now, whereas before it was like a 24/7 you're getting fit and that's all that's happening, you know, that was my only focus. So actually it's been really nice taking some time back to myself to work out what works best for me. So before Christmas, in fact I think we started end of September, start of October time, a few of us here started a staff challenge, which Stu, you won't be surprised to learn, because you know me very well, but I was the only one who made it almost to the end. So there was 4 of us in from the start. I obviously was all in, like I was taking it way too far from the very start. I added bits halfway through. The only reason I didn't finish it, because I was thinking about this the other day actually, was because I then got ill before Christmas and had the worst cold I think I've had in my life. But that's the thing, I kind of had to find, well, what motivates me? And I now know that what motivates me is setting some kind of, so for that challenge, it was, we were to travel a certain distance. We were doing, started off with, I think it was 1 burpee a day, 99 sit-ups, and then it was 2 a day and 98. And this was to carry on for 100 days. And yeah, it's just silly stuff like that, having some sort of arbitrary distance that I've decided to go, or a challenge to complete. And you know, there's obviously something within that my brain likes. So that's sort of been my new way of looking at things, is not just how do I train, but what motivates me to want to go and do it. Because everyone's had those days when they're like, I know I can go and do a session, so I know time busted training, you know, they'd be like, I know Stu's uploaded the one I missed this morning, but what motivates me to then go and do that in the afternoon? And I think because I've been much more aware of my own accountability and making sure that I'm doing my, you know, what I should be doing, that for me has made all that a lot easier, to a point now where, you know, I am getting fitter again, and you know, I know I am. And there's days, actually like your session this morning, where I was, because of the session I did the night before, I was like, I've done these in the wrong order. I've done a session I think you did last Wednesday, which turned out to be most of the stuff we did this morning, and halfway through I was like, oh no, I picked the wrong one. This is tough. But that's the thing, I think you can have sessions where it is tough, but because you get through them, you then have that, you know, that uplifting feeling afterwards of, okay, I didn't think I could do that, and I could. And you know, and that's always motivating, I think.
Yeah. So we've got 4 minutes left. I want to go, like, what trips you up? Okay, what's the things that, well, I want to go to the things you're not doing, or the things that push you off your fitness journey, to then finish off with what we're going to do, what your future looks like. So what are the things that you do that you know that have tripped you up in the past?
So one of my things, as I say, because I'm quite if I set something, I want to complete it, I'll get to a point where if for some reason that's not feasible, or I miss a day or something, I'm like, well, that's done. Like my brain, so some of us are doing this 100 burpees challenge for May at the moment. So I've done mine religiously every day. Like I did 100 before midnight and after midnight, so I could kind of have a day off, because I was like, you know, and other people are like, oh, I've missed a day, I'm doing them the next day. But my mind's like, no, it's every day. You do it every day. Yeah. So I do know that there is that part of me that if I miss a day, a big part of my brain will go, well, you messed that up, it's done. No point getting back into it now. Yeah. So there is that, but that's now an element of myself I'm much more aware of. I don't really know quite where it comes from. I have been accused of being a little bit too competitive, so I don't know if that's part of it. I don't know if you'd agree with that, Stu.
I think people might be picking that little thread up.
The other things, I think sometimes it's as simple as I kind of take my eye off the ball a bit, or I kind of go, I'll kind of have a day off and not be so conscious of what I'm eating. And if I'm not careful, that can turn into like, oh, it's been a week. And if I'm not feeling great, or I'm not, you know, very focused on what I'm doing, I'm that classic diet starts Monday kind of person. So if it's Monday afternoon and I've messed up, the following Monday will be the day, you know, that. And that's the thing that's kind of strange, is because I'm obviously helping people with their own issues with that. And we actually talked about that recently, and I kind of had this, oh, I wonder if I've slumped back into that, not fully, but like a little bit of, oh, you know, one more day won't hurt. And you think, well, it might. You know, there does just come that point where, for myself anyway, I have to draw a line, and I'm not very good at one of these people who can, you know, be very strict, but then go a little bit off and have a day off. Like I'm much better if I just kind of stay on it, or keep the off days or off meals very limited, which is actually really good, because, you know, I live with people who are not, you know, necessarily doing things that way, but they're very understanding that that's what I need. So if they're having a meal, they'll just be like, you don't want this, do you? And I'm like, nope, that's fine. I don't want that. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else.
So no, I think I like to stay positive. So in the last minute or so, what's the future look like? What's your focus? I know there's going to be a real like drive and focus. So what is that? What's the future look like?
At the moment, I am just wanting to continue with getting more back into different aspects of fitness. So I have been trying to start to run again. I'm still having a few issues with that, but that is one of the things I'd really like because I did enjoy it. And also there's things that I've realized I've forgotten that I used to like. So I was doing something recently, actually preparing something for our group, where I suddenly realized I used to love swimming. Like, I mean, I was a really, really good swimmer as well. And I was like, why don't I do that anymore? Why have I stopped doing that? I mean, even when I was big, I loved swimming. You know, it was one of those bizarre, like, loved swimsuit shopping, even though I had to get like really big sizes. So that's something that I'm like, well, actually, maybe if I can't do some of the other things I want to do at the moment, I can get back into that because I've been looking a lot at recently about like the intensity versus kind of consistency and duration of how long you fit. And in fact, one of the things I'm liking at the moment is just looking into different aspects of fitness and nutrition, and just kind of not like I'm off to do a degree in it, nothing like that, but as in like find the odd TED talk that's different, or read an article that actually makes you just think differently. And yeah, I'm finding all those sorts of things really interesting. So I think at the minute I'm actually enjoying kind of expanding my knowledge of the kind of industry I'm now in and my own training, to be honest.
Yeah, fab. So I'm trying to reset my.
Well, that's for the person for the next podcast. Trying to get in.
That's the longest the alarm has had to go off. Good old technology. So that's our 20 minutes. Nick, thank you so much.
Well, I'll come back anytime. Let me know.
Say that again, sorry?
I said I'll come back anytime. You just let me know.
I'm sure we can get you on. So it's a privilege to have you in the Time Buster Training tribe. And thank you so much for your time today and telling your story. It's really impactful to hear other people's story in their fitness journey because it really helps and adds value to others. So thank you very much. If you enjoyed that, guys, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow our podcast on your podcast provider. And see you next week. Take care, guys. Bye.